The one other thing I sent to Matt, the very wonderful producer, has to do with really what the Democrats are all about in this impeachment. And there was a meme, a picture with words on a meme that President Trump has been using since this vote and even before the vote happened. And I want to put it up and let you take a look at it. And then I really want to talk about why I think it's such a profound and important thing President Trump is trying to say. So here is this meme. He's saying, in reality, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way. I'm telling you, folks, no truer words were ever spoken. President Trump is brilliant to be putting that meme out to make people start talking about what exactly is the reason this impeachment is occurring. And back to what I was saying in the first 5 about what President Trump ran on, what he said he would do, what he is doing. He is, in ways our American history has not happened before, upsetting the encrusted, entrenched, ruling elite in Washington in countless ways, in avenue of issues of all kinds, and in the way government functions, in the way decision making occurs, who makes decisions, in the way the systems work in Washington. In so many conceivable ways, President Trump is, to use his term, draining the swamp. This is making the Democrats livid. They can't believe someone has the nerve to stand up and follow through on the things he promised to the voters. When President Trump ran and said, for example, America first, America is going to be back, America, a strong America, a freedom-based America, an America that actually has borders, America that enforces its borders, America that looks after the needs of its own workers. And so when we make trade deals and other kinds of negotiations, we keep in mind the need of the American workers to have jobs. What President Trump ran on was truly cutting to the deepest heart of the entrenched ruling elite's concept of how America runs, especially on the American left, on their side of the aisle. And their notion is, we've done things a certain way for a long time. We've grown government. We've grown the welfare state. We intend to grow the welfare state even bigger repeatedly. We don't want a secure border because we're trying to flood America with non-Americans who will eventually make into citizens and Democrat voters. We Americans take a back seat in our negotiations in the United Nations with other countries, in our trade deals. We diminish the value and the uniqueness and the importance of America. This is what the left has done for decades. What President Trump ran on rattled them to the core. This is why David Plouffe said this back in 2016. We can't have a guy like this running. We can't have him win. We can't have anyone of his kind in Washington, in the White House. So when President Trump won, he won because his message of reasserting the unique, extraordinary identity of America resonated with the American people. It resonated with voters, especially in the heartland of America. It resonated with voters of all ages, voters of various backgrounds, ethnicities, races, national origin, all of that. It resonated with people who had any concept that America is a unique and extraordinary idea. President Trump ran on the idea of restoring America. The anti-American left, which is not every Democrat, but it is the mindset that controls the Democrat Party, the anti-American leftism that controls the Democrat Party, finds everything that President Trump ran on utterly repulsive. They cannot believe that America, the strong, America, the symbol of freedom to the world, America, the notion that you can have a country based on the idea of we, the people, holding the power, based on the idea that we're going to have free markets and that a free people can work and strive and dream and provide for themselves. A country where the government's main mission is not to control, feed, house, and clothe every single citizen. Leftists thrive on power. They are driven to have power. They are driven to find ways and arguments where the end of the day, they will control more and more and more of your life. They are driven to raise taxes because they do think it is their job to control who has money, who has how much money, who should have other people's money. The mindset of the left is very, very entitled. They're entitled to think we're entitled to rule, and these foolish Americans who think that the founding ideas of America matter anymore. They are fools, they're crazy, they're wrong, and they are to be squashed. Leftism in this country is astonishingly relentless. They take every single issue, whatever the anti-American left-wing view is, and they push it and they push it and they push it. The idea that President Trump won that election is not just because they wanted Hillary to win. They did want Hillary to win. But they can't stand that the person who won was not a go-along-to-get-along Republican who they could just pummel and attack, but a guy who would stand, a guy who would not buckle every time the left resorts to one of their many, many tactics in attacking people who won't agree with them, calling him a racist, calling him xenophobic, calling him homophobic, calling him a hater. All the name-calling tactic they're used to using doesn't work with him. They are livid that they could not find a way to shut down his pro-America agenda. Livid. So I want to, this idea of what is happening with this impeachment, that's why I think Trump is so brilliant to say, what the Democrats really attacked, who they really impeached, was him, of course, but it's really the voters. It's the message of the anti-American leftist Democrat Party of today to the voters. Don't you dare think you're in charge. Don't you dare think you can pick a leader, America, that isn't going to kowtow to the left-wing view of the world. That is what the left-wing leaders of the Democrat Party think. It is the message they are sending to America. It was David Plouffe's message in that tweet. It is a message that leftists in this country have just poured forth in tweets and speeches and floor speeches and everywhere they are, online, everywhere they are. The idea underlying all their arguments is it's an attack on the American people. You're not allowed to choose America first. You're not allowed to try to be part of the mission to reassert America's greatness and extraordinary goodness. You're not allowed. You got to stay, America, the left-wing leaders think. You got to stay with the plan that the left has, which is we're going to drive America down the path of socialism, down the path of a more powerful, all-controlling federal government. We're going to take away your health care freedom. We're going to control your health care decisions. You're not going to be in charge of your own health and your own life. We're going to control the education system, and you're going to learn what we think you have to learn. These people are driven to have power. It's the core mission of a leftist is to have control over the people. This is what led to the impeachment. But I want to touch on something else about the impeachment. A lot of people have been saying, okay, so the House is a Democrat majority. Of course, they went ahead and voted for impeachment. But so what? Because we still have the Senate. I want to raise a couple of things that I want to say. We cannot be complacent. We have to be very alert and recognize, unlike the conservative side, which pretty much we just say what we think, we stand up for what we think, we try to push what we think in the public square, in the American political conversation, in legislation, in elections. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say, and we stand up for our ideas. The leftist mindset, because it is so driven to obtain power and expand power, they're always thinking 10 steps ahead. We make a big mistake on our side if we think the left is actually on its face just meaning, well, we just wanted to try the impeachment, see how it went. If it didn't go well, okay, so the Senate is going to, refuse to remove the president. The Senate's going to vote no on the impeachment, and so, we're done. That is not how leftists think. There's a strategy. We began to see part of the strategy yesterday. After the impeachment vote, Speaker Pelosi announced that she was not actually going to send the 2 articles of impeachment, which are a complete sham, But she said she was not going to send them over to the Senate yet. She was waiting for, as she termed, is the term the left always uses, until she thought those articles of impeachment could get a fairer vote in the Senate. She wanted a fairer process in the Senate. So she's saying, look, we did all we could, but, we're waiting over here, and the Senate, they're not agreeing to do what Schumer wants, and it's not going to be fair, so we're not going to send the articles over. And you could have the reaction and say, okay, great, you know what? You impeach the president. If you're not going to remove him, who cares? It was just a sham vote. It was just a, show vote if you're not going to do anything about it. But never, ever, ever underestimate the relentless and tenacity of the American left. What I think is happening is that on the left, during the Mueller investigation, many people were, they took depositions, they gathered documents, they gathered, troves of data, hundreds of thousands of hours of depositions, millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of documents. And those documents and testimony did not all make it into the Mueller report. Some of it was prepared and presented in various, as Robert Mueller went along in his Trump-Russia collusion thing, the documents and the testimony were presented in various proceedings that the House does not yet have a hold of. The House has not been able to see a huge chunk of information that Bob Mueller collected during the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. And part of the reason that information is not public is that the president has asserted executive privilege over some things, executive privilege over, his own lawyers, which, folks, if there can't be executive privilege over the president's lawyer, then there is no executive privilege. It's absurd. But right now we have the Democrats in federal court demanding a federal court order the release of an enormous swath of documents, an enormous swath of testimony and the ordering of testimony, because they think what they're going to find is something else to use to go after President Trump. If the impeachment articles don't go to the Senate and they're just sitting there in the House, and they get some ruling by a federal court judge that will give them, for example, access to President Trump's financial records. There are actually three cases pending now. They've been joined. They're pending in the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court is going to make a ruling. They're going to hear the case in March and rule probably in May or June on the question of whether in these three different cases the American left is entitled to get access to President Trump's financial records. That's one piece of information they want. They additionally want information that was presented at grand juries, presented during the Mueller investigation to the grand juries. And they think they may get rulings from either the District Court of D.C. or the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, rulings that order the DOJ to release all these documents that the Democrats in the U.S. House want to have. They think if they can get that, they can scour over it, they can find new things to impeach President Trump over, they can reopen the impeachment hearing, they can add articles of impeachment, they can issue new articles of impeachment. Understand me and please believe me when I tell you, the Democrats are going to keep going after President Trump the whole time he's president for the whole next 5 years. I do think, barring election fraud and barring him being removed, he will win again in 2020. But understand, the left is not seeking truth. They're not seeking fairness in terms of what the Constitution requires, what the impeachment standard is. They are in the relentless mindset that just absorbs and controls leftists. They are seeking some way to remove President Trump because he's a roadblock to their massive government control, socialist mindset, expansive government mission that they've had for decades. Only now it's really coming to a head. The leftist mission to grow government to the point that we no longer have the basic freedoms in American society it's coming to a head. They had President Obama in there for 8 years, who weaponized most of the aspects of the federal government, federal agencies. He grotesquely and greatly expanded the power of federal agencies to interfere with, to spy on, to control the American people. They were on their mission of this government-controlled society. Hillary was going to perpetuate that mission. And this is why, back to my point about this segment today, this is why President Trump's meme of saying they came after him, but the real target is you. They, the American left, cannot stand the idea that all of these fabulous, important, foundational ideas of America are being reasserted, and that the American people like those ideas. The American people are eating them up. They want these ideas. But understand, when I was saying a moment ago about being complacent, it's a little too easy to think, well, we're all done because, after all, you know, the Senate is controlled by the Republicans. They won't impeach. There is no end to the determination of the American left to bring down this president. No end. And for those of you thinking, well, maybe to buy peace, fine, let's let them remove Trump. We can still stand up for all these policies we believe in. We can still stand up for secure borders and citizenship that means something, and restoring America's place in the world economy, and reliance on free markets, and expanding the job market, and growing our growth rate, growing our economy. We can just have somebody else do it, and that could not be more wrong. The left is against President Trump, not because of his tweets, and not even because of his personality. They're against what he stands for. And if they could take him down, they're going to see that victory. They're going to move forward from that victory with the idea they won, the American people lost, and we've been told again, you may not have the freedom you thought you had. You may not have this America First mentality. Forget it. My point is, friends, there's no reason at all to assume that the leftists can be compromised with, can be negotiated with, that we can meet them halfway. They have no intention of ever compromising their left-wing ideology. They will never compromise it. Our job as patriots is to stand strong with President Trump and all that he is trying to do in this country to save this country.